Have you ever tried to change the topic while you're talking? In this video, hello, my name's Saber, and in this video we are going to focus on tips and techniques on how to change the topic politely and not to be rude. So before we get started, I want you to subscribe to the channel so that you will later get notifications for new videos and you won't miss them. And by the way, if you need any help with IELTS speaking, then you have to watch the videos about how to kill IELTS interviews. And through this link over there, you can do so. So without further ado, let's dive in and get started with that. But before I tell you those tips, I want you to listen to this conversation. I mean these conversations, because there are three of them. So please listen carefully and we'll come back and I'll tell you what to do.
1. I was reading an article just yesterday about a new law on TV adverts for junk food. The government is going to make them illegal. I mean, junk food, that's anything from a fast food restaurant or food that's high in fat or sugar.
I've heard about that. By the way, a fantastic new fast food chicken restaurant has just opened on the high street. It's brilliant, really good value, and the food is delicious, even if it is cheap fast food.
Yes, but where does the chicken come from? That's my question. I mean, you can't sell chicken that cheaply unless it's really poor quality.
Speaking of keeping chickens, I was actually thinking of getting a couple myself, but my garden is tiny.
2.
And anyway, I just don't think the government is doing enough to control the country's financial problems.
Yes, it's a serious issue, isn't it? Sorry, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I believe you've just bought a car from carsupermarket.com. Would you recommend it as a dealer?
Well, you can save money there, but to be honest, I'd rather pay more and go to a local dealer. The train took an hour to get there.
I know what you mean. I had a similar experience last week when I was trying to get the train to London.
3.
I've been to so many interviews, but I still haven't got a job. I applied for another one last week. Did I tell you about it?
I think you did, yes. Oh, while I remember, have you finished reading my thesis yet? If you have, I want to give it to my dad to read.
Now, let's focus on some good expressions we just heard from the conversations. The first one is advert. An advert is an advertisement, okay? British people usually pronounce it as advertisement. Another one is illegal. If something is illegal, you can't do it, like drinking on the street. Junk food. Junk food is such food which is not healthy and they are rich in fat and sugar, like fast food, like chips, like a lot of those junk food we buy from the supermarket. Poor quality. Opposite of high quality. If something is poor quality, it's not good enough to pay for. Speaking of, whenever you say speaking of, you just remember something and then you say, oh, now that we are talking about this, let me tell you this, right? Do enough. If you do enough about something, you are trying hard in order to make some good changes. The other one is issue. An issue is a problem, but it is more formal. It is related to politics, economics, and things like that. This one is so long, and it is, this has nothing to do with what we are talking about. But first of all, this expression is used whenever you are going to change the topic, right? But take a look at this part. This has nothing to do with. This means it is not related, right? So next one is dealer. A dealer is a person you trade with. So for example, I give this microphone to you and I get a speaker. So you are a dealer, I am a dealer, right? We are dealing. Next one, which is so actually cool, but you know it, is to be honest. This means if I want to tell you the truth. You can also say to tell you the truth or to put it bluntly. Next is I'd rather. I'd rather is as if we say I would prefer to do something. But the point is, after I'd rather, you just have to use a verb, not 2 plus verb. For example, I'd rather eat fish, but I would prefer to eat fish, right? Next one is I know what you mean. This means I understand you. I know what you mean. I had a similar experience. This is a good expression, you almost know it, but you don't use it. So if somebody's talking about an experience which is good or bad, you just you just come up with such a phrase in order to say, I am like you. I had a similar experience. While I remember. While somebody's talking and then you interrupt them and you say, oh, while I remember. This means, oh, now that I remember, let me tell you something, so that I won't forget later. So that's all of the expressions and phrases I found interesting to know. Right now, I'm going to tell you the tips that are important. Let's now dive in. Now, I'm going to tell you the tips. There are 3 of them. There are not so many. And later, I will tell you a technique as a practice so that you can do in order to improve your conversation skills and stuff like that. So let's first of all go for the tips without wasting any time. The very first tip is this. I'm going to read it to you. It is usually less offensive, less rude, less impolite to a speaker if you interrupt yourself to change the subject rather than interrupting them, the speakers, right? For example, you say, I agree. It's a really difficult situation. Oh, did I tell you I bumped into Marco the other day? Bumped into somebody means see somebody suddenly without even planning about it. So you are talking and then you interrupt yourself in order to add something else. This way you change the topic and it is less offensive, less rude. Okay, but if they are talking and you interrupt them, it's not, gonna be that good. But you can do it with your friends, by the way. Number 2, try to change the subject to something that has a connection with what the speaker is saying. To start on a completely different topic could seem rude. So just imagine somebody's talking about school problems and then you switch to talking about food. They are completely different, right? So this isn't very appropriate. So you have to pick another topic which is kind of relevant. For example, the person is talking about the school problems and then you talk about your own school problems, your own problems about your children relating to school. The school is important. And the third tip is if you have to change the topic completely, announce it, preferably with an apology. So, okay, we just actually have the same situation. Somebody's talking about, so this time, university problems, university stuff. Then you want to change the topic completely. I mean, you just want to get out of the university thing and you want to talk about, let's say, economical problems, right? And in this situation, you have to use the word sorry. But while I remember, let me tell you this. This way you can actually make it sound much better. So, what is the exercise you can do now? The exercise you can do now is to pick a person as a partner and practice the conversation we already had. So, you can actually go backward the video and practice the conversation with a partner, with a person. If you do not have a person around you, you can do it with the person who's talking in this video. So do it, it will definitely help you. Right, so here we have 2 things to focus on. I go for them without wasting even a second because the video is getting long, but they're very important. So in order to interrupt yourself rather than the speaker, you say this phrase, oh, while I remember. If you want to change the subject to something that is loosely connected with the topic, almost connected, you say, by the way. By the way, a fantastic new fast food chicken restaurant has just opened on the high street. So this was something from the conversation. Or you can say, speaking of. Speaking of keeping chickens, I was actually thinking of getting a couple myself. I know what you mean. I had a similar experience last week. So in order to announce a change of topic, you say, this has nothing to do with what we are talking about, but. And the last one is, in order to make an apology for changing the conversations. So this we've got here, sorry, this has nothing to do with what we are talking about. So sorry here is actually telling the person that I'm not going to be rude, but let me say something. Alright, the second thing I'm going to focus on are some expressions that are similar to each other. The first one is speaking of. There's another one which we can say talking of. Speaking of and talking of. The second one is before I forget, which means while I remember. Number 3, that reminds me of, which you can instead say something similar happened. And 4, this has got nothing to do with what we are talking about. But instead of that, you can say changing the subject for a minute. So that's all for this video. I really appreciate your views. I mean, you watched it until the end. If you have done that, I really say congratulations to you. Because you are so consistent in learning English, and that's so something. I'm really proud of you. Thank you. So don't forget to subscribe for new videos, because we are going to be much better than what we are now. So I am Saber, and I'll see you next time. Catch you later.